Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Diana and the Book Hunt. If you've noticed, I have not really posted a lot on my channel for the past couple of weeks because actually my son had scarlet fever, so it's been a bit difficult to actually sit down and film. I did manage to finish a lot of books throughout the 2 weeks that I haven't really posted too much, but in the meantime, yeah, I've just been planning out on how to continue on with posting now that my son is feeling a bit better. So yeah, I'm going to do my March wrap up today. I'm going to discuss all of the books that I finished from like halfway throughout the month until today, basically, which is is it the 31st, already the 1st, because it's in the middle of the night right now. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up all of those books, and then next week I do have a couple of videos planned that I'm going to share with you. I do have one reading vlog that I'm definitely going to post that I've been preparing, and I'm going to talk about the books, some of the books at least, that are going to be in that vlog today as well. I'm just going to mention them, and then I'm going to tell you how my month went. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I actually read about 25 books in the month of March, which is really good. I think it may be my best month, I think in maybe 2 years time or so, because I usually read about 20 books, so 25 is quite a lot. And I think I DNF'd the most books that I've ever DNF'd in my life. I think I DNF'd just as many books as I had DNF'd like last year as a whole, which is very good. I think I feel really good about it because I really want to start taking care of not making myself push through books that I don't enjoy, because I've been doing that a lot, like really trying to push through and see, okay, am I being too harsh? Should I just finish it and see whether it's going to be somehow decent? But I just need to read books that I actually enjoy. So there's been a couple of books that I did not finish. I'm not going to discuss them today because I have plenty of books to share with you that I either did enjoy, I loved, or I had some issues with that I do want to discuss. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and dive in. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is by Karina Halle. In my previous wrap up, I shared with you that I read one of Karina Halle's books that I absolutely loved. I gave that one 4.5 stars, and I really wanted to read another book by this author because I do have a couple of audios from her backlist in Storytel. So I picked up Heatwave, which is a very messy and emotional book. If you like messy and emotional and kind of forbidden, you're going to love this one. We have a situation where the heroine in the book, Veronica, she meets this amazing guy at an event. They have an amazing conversation going and kind of a chemistry building together. And then once she thinks that she can just go ahead and leave with him so they can explore what they have, her sister comes into the picture and he actually leaves with her sister. And not only does he leave with her sister, but they start a relationship and they get married. So our heroine Veronica, she has always had a thing for her sister's husband, but obviously it's not an ideal situation. And her sister and this guy, his name is Logan, they move to Hawaii where he starts on a hotel. He starts managing a hotel. And years pass and her sister dies in a tragic car accident. So yeah, Veronica moves over to Hawaii to help him out with the hotel. He gives her the opportunity to be the chef at the restaurant at the hotel, and it's a very messy situation because obviously he's a widower he's actually her sister's widower, so it's really uncomfortable to think about starting up a romantic relationship with so many ties and such baggage. But this book was really good. I mean, we really focus on how the heroine experienced the fact that she lost out on the opportunity to actually start the relationship before her sister, and also kind of the relationship with her sister, kind of a competition that was always going on between the two of them. It was really well fleshed out. I really liked it, and I gave this one 4 stars. The next book I finished is one that I gave it 5 stars at a time. I now fully am aware that it's probably more of a 4.5 star read, but still I'm rounding it up to 5 because I really had such a fun time with it. The book is called A Really Bad Idea, and it's by Jeannine Colette. This book focuses on a divorcee. She just recently got divorced because her famous hockey player husband cheated on her. So she has spent like most of her 20s being in this very kind of a high profile relationship with him, and he really did a number on her because he cheated on her repeatedly, and she really wanted to start a family, but he was not on the same wavelength as her. She's now in her, like, she's like 32 maybe, and she really wants to have kids, but she is not in a relationship, and her mom actually gives her the idea to maybe consider freezing her eggs or start like IVF, but with like an anonymous donor. So she's considering that, but in the meantime, her best friend, who is a guy, his name is Christian, he's a doctor at the practice where she's a nurse. He offers his services when it comes to having a baby. And at the same time, he has a condition to that. He says, let me take you out on some real dates. Like, I know that we're best friends, but I think that there's something there. So we find out in the meantime that he has always had a thing for her. She has always had a thing for him, but it was kind of a situation of never the right time for them. So yeah, I really love this. I am a sucker for a good friends to lovers story, and I really loved Christian in this book. His character is very fun. So they have amazing banter together. You really feel their friendship shining through the plot. But at the same time, we see that he really has serious intentions with her, even though at the forefront of his mind, he's very career driven, which is why she's very hesitant with accepting that he has feelings for her. But it was a very surprisingly well fleshed out story, so I really liked it. And like I mentioned, it's a 4.5 to 5 star read for me. Next up, I read a book by Marni Mann. It's called Even If It Hurts, and I actually just saw that Michae from OH, Michae, read this book and absolutely loved it, and I understand why she loved it. This is a very interesting story, and it's written in such a wonderful way because it's a love triangle, and love triangles need to be written in a very specific way for them to be successful. I think that in many of the cases when a love triangle is involved, a lot of the times we as readers have a preference for one of the two guys and we're rooting for someone, and we kind of feel like the heroine needs to pick a specific guy. But within this one, the book was written so well because both of the men in this story are so amazing in their own way that you're like also torn up. You don't know which one of the two men the heroine is going to choose. You don't know if she's going to make the right choice, because, or actually she's going to make a right choice anyway because both of them are wonderful, but you kind of feel bad for the person that she's not going to choose. So yeah, let me tell you how the story starts. We have our heroine Chloe, who as a college student, like she's in university, she decides to do a 6 month like an exchange where she goes to the UK to do 6 months, like a semester there, and she immediately meets Oliver, who charms her, and they have an amazing chemistry together. They immediately start dating and they're inseparable. They spend all of their time together while she's there. But obviously, when the 6 months are up, their relationship kind of ends because there's no way for them to continue that relationship. But they really fell in love with each other, so she has very strong feelings for him. Now, because there is a job opportunity for her, she moves back to the States, and some time passes, I believe a year or two, and that's when she meets Lance, who is very wealthy and really sweeps her off her feet. He takes her to places where, you know, when you're a wealthy guy, you can make an impression. So he really goes above and beyond for her, and the relationship really kind of progresses in a very kind of an organic way, in such a pleasant way. There is no setbacks for them, so they immediately fall into an amazing relationship and they get married. And then once they're married, Chloe gets an opportunity through her work to go to an office in Amsterdam where every 2 weeks she goes to this office to work on a project for that company. And she finds out that Oliver works in the same building as her in Amsterdam. So this is where the tricky part starts, because she's going to be spending a lot of time with him where her husband is not going to be with her. So be aware that within this book there's cheating involved. So if you don't like cheating in books, you can just put that one down and not pick it up. And yeah, I really did enjoy this one. I felt like it was handled with such care, with really consideration towards how torn the heroine was, and I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I do think it deserves 4 to 4.5 stars. And yeah, it was a special read. I think I'm going to pick up more by this author because it was very well written. So I hope you can see me well because I'm noticing that it's kind of dark here, but I'm too lazy to get up to set up my ring light, so I really hope you can see me well. In the meantime, I'm going to talk about the next book, which I actually am going to cover in one of my following vlogs, which will be up sometime, I think, next week. And this book is a mystery thriller, and it's called In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashely Winstead. This book is quite popular, and it's a book about a group of college friends who visit their reunion like 10 years after they've graduated their college. And during that reunion, we find out that there has been a crime that happened during their college years, and one of them has committed that crime, and they're kind of being confronted with kind of who did it. Like they're trying to find out who did it. And it's a very interesting read. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it because you're going to hear my thoughts on it in the vlog, and I only can tell you that I gave it 4 stars. So I did enjoy it. So you can look forward to that reading vlog. Now, the next book is also part of that reading vlog. It's called I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jenette McCurdy. This book is extremely popular. It's a memoir that came out last year, and it really made its rounds on Book Talk and Booktube and everywhere basically because it's a very impactful read. Again, I'm not going to talk about it in too much detail because you're going to hear my full thoughts when I upload my vlog. I can only say that it's a very heavy read. It's involving, basically the author is also the narrator, by the way, of the audiobook that I read. She was a child, like a Hollywood star, and she's describing her path to how she became a Hollywood star as a child and her relationship with her mother throughout all of the auditions and the process of her becoming a Hollywood star, how that really played out in her life. And it's a very difficult read with a lot of trigger warnings as well. So please check them out if you're interested in picking up this book if you haven't yet. But it was a very impactful read. I gave it 5 stars, and I'm going to talk about it in my reading vlog in a couple of days' time. The next book, I'm going to tell you why I picked it up. I watched on Jess's channel from Peace Love Books. Jessica, she did an interview with an audiobook narrator, Zachary Weber, and he spoke about how they have this community of audiobook narrators and they all know each other. And for some reason, I looked that up and I saw that Erin Mallon, who is also an audiobook narrator, she is an author as well, and she wrote an audio play, which is kind of like an audiobook, but instead of a book, it's a play. So you really have scenes where they get played out, and then there's a cut, and you get into a new scene. This was really interesting to read. For me, it's not a very long audiobook. I think it's like maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours, not even maybe. But I had so much fun with it. The book is called Skin Hungry, and it is narrated by Zachary Weber and a couple of others. And it was so funny, and in the end also a little bit endearing, and I found that it was also very ludicrous, the plot. I don't want to go into the plot because it's such a short audiobook that I think it's best to just go in blind, because I also went in blind. I really didn't know anything about it, and then when I started reading it at the beginning, I was like, what am I reading right now? Because there is a kind of a plot with a romance between a woman who is, I believe, in her 70s and a guy who is in his 20s or 30s. It may sound weird, but for this situation, it worked. So try it out, see if you're going to like it. I really had fun with it. I gave it 4 stars. Next up, I picked a sports romance, a hockey romance. You know, I've been on a kick with hockey romances. I'm looking for the next best thing, basically, since Malhae by Liz Stamford. I really want to read something similar to that, but let's see when I'm going to find that one. This one wasn't it, if I have to be honest. Secret Puck by Rebecca Jenshak. This book, I was kind of underwhelmed by it. It's a new adult story where the hero and heroine are in college. She just got out of a relationship, and her high school boyfriend, they were supposed to go to the same college, but he broke it off with her because he decided to go to another college. So she was really unprepared for being in a situation where she's going to be alone at this college. But luckily for her, at least her brother is there. So Her brother is Bart. He's actually the captain of the hockey team. And through him, she basically meets all of the guys of the hockey team and she gets interested in one of the guys. His name is Heath. And obviously, in this book, we have the trope of don't touch my baby sister because she is like, you know, off limits. And I don't like that very much. So it's kind of like the overprotective big brother trope that I don't typically like. But it wasn't really navigated in a very bad way. So, in a way where he was possessive and kind of having fights with Heath or anything like that. So I like that about the book. But unfortunately, I just was underwhelmed by it. I don't think that this was a memorable read for me. Like, if I think about this book in a couple of weeks' time, I don't think I'm going to remember the plot of it. And none of the characteristics of the characters really stood out to me. And additionally, if I think about it, because it was very interesting, I saw Tori from Novel Life do a video about hockey romances where she discussed that it's very interesting how in some hockey romances you will have like a heavy plot of you seeing a lot of hockey going on, so a lot of the games. And within this one, you just don't have any kind of activity with the hockey. You just know that he's a hockey player. So that kind of bugged me because if you're a hockey player, like, especially if you're going to go into the NFL, which he was supposed to do, your life is really revolving around your routine and your training regimen and everything. And it just didn't seem very realistic to me how it was depicted. They were just going to parties and being in the frat house and just it just didn't seem like very realistic to me. So I just didn't connect with it that well. So yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. It wasn't a bad book, but it just wasn't for me, I think. So yeah, I just didn't like it too much. Next up, I read another book that I'm doing for another reading vlog of mine that will come out, I think, in another week time, so in about 2 weeks time. The book is Amour by Kristen Becker Ritchie. It has been kind of rebranded with a new cover and new title. The new title, I think, is called The Failed Audition. And I'm not going to talk about the plot of this book because you're going to hear about it in my reading vlog. I can only say that I'm revisiting this book because I actually read it when it came out. I don't know in which year that was, maybe 2016 or something, 2015, 2016, and I gave it 5 stars then. And I just wanted to revisit it to see how I like it now, so many years later, and I still loved it. I'm going to tell you all about it in the reading vlog. Next up, I read another hockey romance, and this hockey romance, it just recently released, and I really had high hopes for it because I saw on Amazon, I got it off of Amazon, off of Kindle, and I saw that there were a lot of reviews there where people were hyping it up, that it's really good. So I was like, okay, let me try it out. The book is called Rule Number 5 by Jay Wilder. And this book is again a new adult story where we have actually the 2 main characters in their senior year of college. So they're going to be graduating soon. The guy, he is drafted to the NFL to go to Boston already, so he knows that when he graduates he's going to leave to Boston. And the girl, she actually her dream is to go into politics, and she has an internship lined up somewhere in like Vancouver or Seattle, just somewhere not in Boston, so like far away from Boston. So both of them, when they meet, they're like, okay, so this cannot go anywhere because our interests and lives are just going to lead us into different directions. But they have some chemistry, so they're like kind of also bumping into each other the whole time. What really bothered me with this story, though, is that from the start until about the 50% mark, I felt like there was just stereotype after stereotype or cliche after cliche. And the guy, he really got hooked on the heroine. He was obsessed with her for no apparent reason. Like, he really, it was just so insta-lovey and insta-lusty. And he was obsessed with her. And only at the 50% mark did he really find out what she's really about. So that's the point where I would have wanted to see those feelings come in. But yeah, it was just really, the start of the book was not written very well. And I really had to push myself to kind of continue on. I almost DNF'd it, but I pushed myself to continue on, and the later half of the book got better. That's why I gave the book 3 stars. It would have been a 2-star read if it didn't get better in the end. But yeah, there's just a lot of things going on that I did appreciate, like the relationship between the heroine and her dad and how that impacted her kind of reluctance to be with the hero. I liked that plotline within the story, but just the first part of the story impacted my enjoyment so much I almost put it down and didn't finish it. But yeah, you may like it. I don't know, maybe look up to see if it's going to be something that you might enjoy, because it is just a recent release. It came out like maybe a couple of weeks ago, so I don't know if there's a lot of reviews right now on Goodreads or on Amazon, but yeah, I'm kind of torn about it, to be honest. The book that I picked up next, I picked up on a whim. I found it on Storytel. I saw the cover and I was like, okay, this sounds like a lot of fun. So I just wanted to try it out. The book is called Halle and the Yeti, and it's written by Langa. This book centers on our heroine who goes for a work project to, I think, Arizona, somewhere in Arizona, and she moves to this apartment complex where her neighbor is this guy whom she very affectionately renames the Yeti. So she calls him the Yeti. He is kind of a recluse. He works from home and he really doesn't interact with people at all. But he kind of feels intrigued by our heroine, and he immediately, like, every time that she's outside or that she's doing something in his proximity, he's going to kind of reach out and try to interact with her. So even though he's a recluse and he's very reluctant to communicate, she just has such an infectious kind of a personality that he's very drawn to her. So she's very sunshiny. He's very kind of like an introvert. I wouldn't say that he's a grump, but he's kind of an introvert. And she breaks down his barrier so easily. And there is a subplot within this story that is very fun. We have our heroine who has this favorite actor, and she finds him on the social media app, and she DMs him the whole time. She like he's her best friend, and she's like, he's never going to read these messages because he's so popular. So I'm just going to vent, anything that happens or that is interesting to me. I'm just going to kind of use it like a therapeutic kind of thing. So she writes the whole time, and then obviously halfway through the story he does notice that she is texting him. So something happens from that point on. It is just such a fun story. I had a lot of fun with it. It was like a breeze to move through this story. I almost didn't notice how the time flew by when I was reading it, and I had a lot of fun with it. I gave it 4 stars. In my previous wrap up, I believe I spoke about one of the books that I read by Kitty Thomas, The Escape Artist, and I really enjoyed that one. And I decided that because I have a lot of her books from her backlist in Storytel, that I'm going to pick up more books by this author to make up my mind if it's going to be an author whom I really enjoy. And I picked up a book called Perfection. And when I finished this book, I kind of figured out that this author is very specific because she writes dark romance stories, right? And she has very weird premises within the stories. Like with the Escape Artist, we had a captor captive, but it became reverse captor captive, where the heroine who was captured at the beginning of the story became the captor throughout the story when it progressed. And that was really interesting for me to read about. And then with this story, the story actually starts with the heroine. At the beginning, she has killed her husband, and she is chopping him up in pieces and figuring out a way to get rid of the body. And we find out that her husband was cheating on her and that he was also abusive toward her. So she feels like she is vindicated, and she's kind of like, she has reason to kill him. And she has thought of the best way to deal with the situation. She almost got away with the perfect murder until she receives a note that there is someone who knows what she did, and he is looking for her to come to a specific place in time and do something for him. So this is where the story starts, and it's a very intriguing read, a very weird read. And I knew that there was going to be some kind of a plot twist, like halfway through the book, and the plot twist was kind of underwhelming, at least for me. When I finished the book, I saw in Goodreads that a lot of people liked the plot twist. For me, I don't know if maybe because I've read quite a few dark romances, it was kind of almost expected. So that really didn't faze me too much, but it didn't bother me either. So I really did enjoy this one. I gave it 3.5 stars because I didn't enjoy it as much as The Escape Artist. But I have to say that I have quite a few of the books by Kitty Thomas in Storytel, so I'm definitely going to read more to kind of make up my mind better about her stories. Next up, I'm going to talk about a book by Alexis, Daria. You all know, I think, like when I started my booktube channel, I had raved about the first two books that I read by this author. You Had Me at Ola and A Lot Like Adios. I really love those stories, so I was really looking forward to read Take the Lead, which was just recently rebranded and re-released with a new cover, which is gorgeous. And the premise just really sounded very good to me, where we have a hero and heroine who are going to participate in a reality TV, which is like a show that is something similar to Dancing with the Stars. And the heroine, she's the professional dancer. The hero, he is actually a reality TV star who, together with his family, is participating in a reality TV show in Alaska, where he's from, like a survivalist kind of a show. And yeah, he is a very interesting character. Actually, throughout the story, I really fell in love with him as a character. I found that he fell first, by the way, and he just had such a warm, quiet, calm presence, as well as very understanding demeanor towards the heroine, and he was so supportive of her and always thinking of her. I really love that about him. But then we have our heroine Gina, who she's just so ambitious. She wants to win that trophy. She's so focused on her career. She's very afraid that people are going to stereotype her because she is a Latina. She is a woman who is participating in this dancing show, so people are going to have some kind of a prejudice towards her, if she, especially if she has a romance with one of her co-workers. So she's very aware of that. But because of her ambition, I felt like it was almost kind of like a sick ambition. Like you're almost like neglecting, ignoring, or even being harmful towards the people around you because you're so focused on making it that you're hurting the people around you, which is what happened with the story. And at some point, I was like, Gina, woman, get over yourself. I mean, is this career the only thing that is a driving force in your life? I mean, should the relationships that you forge throughout your life not be more important than your career? I was like, I just didn't get it at some point because it really became harmful towards the people around her, but also towards herself, that she was this ambitious. So yeah, I just had a bit of a more, like, I was more hopeful that it would be more of a romantic type of story. I don't know, I had a feel like it was going to be a very romantic story, but the guy was there. He was going for it, but she was so reluctant, and she just made such bad decisions when it came to the communication that she had with him, that like the halfway point or just past the halfway point, I really started to dislike her, like actively dislike her. So when that happens, it's so difficult for that character to redeem themselves in my eyes that it's almost like a lost cause. So I give this book 3 stars because I really did enjoy the different plot lines within the story, and the reality TV aspect was really nicely done. Even though I do have to mention one more thing. This is focusing on dancing, right? Like Dancing with the Stars. I found that, like with the hockey romance that I discussed before, if you're going to write a book about, for example, hockey, or in this case, dancing, I want to see that going on. I want to see more. I want to read more about the dancing, like they were dancing a tango and a paso doble, like the steps that you make, the proximity that you have, the feelings that you have, even the smell or whatever, just something that makes you want to feel the connection between the characters because they're dancing together. I wanted to feel that, and there were almost no scenes where the dance is captured, so that was really sad for me. So yeah, that's why I gave it 3 stars. I don't want to go lower than 3 because it wasn't a bad story, but honestly, I just had such high expectations for this book, and unfortunately they weren't met. Unfortunately, we're going to end off this video on not a positive note, because the book that I read last in March is called Tempting in Stilletos by Malone. And this book, while it started off really well, it started off with a promise that it's possibly going to be a 4 or 5-star read. It just crashed and burned in the end because the hero was really such a misogynist. I had such a hard time with accepting the fact that he had such a behavior towards the heroine and didn't really redeem himself. He just kind of said, sorry, I was wrong. And then that was it. And I'm like, was that it? I really felt really underwhelmed by how that situation was handled, so I didn't really enjoy it. We have a brother's best friend romance, which is another thing that I don't typically enjoy. I don't know why I keep on picking up books with this trope. It's just that the other tropes really sounded good to me. The heroine within this book was really great. She is part owner of a strip club, and she used to dance actually, but now she's the accountant for that strip club, and she really wants to get her groove back because she had a horrible relationship that left her feeling with like kind of a lot of complexes within herself, a lot of insecurities. So she subscribes to go to this stiletto pole dance class to kind of feel like more confident within herself, which I absolutely love. And she decided to go for the guy, for the hero in the book, even though he is her brother's best friend and she knows that he's kind of off limits. But she's been pining for him for so long that she decides that she's going to go for him. And there's mutual pining going on because he has always had a thing for her as well. But then the hero goes on and becomes the biggest pig that you can have in a book, and that really ruined it for me. So um thinking about it, the first half of the book was a 4-star read, and then the last half of the book was like a 2-star read. So the average should be 3 stars, maybe 2.5, 3 stars. I wouldn't know what to rate it, to be honest. It just wasn't the favorite. These were all the books that I finished in the later half of March. It was a very turbulent month, but I really did find that I had a lot of successful reads because also in the first half of the month I had a couple of gems that I came across, and the couple of books that I did read, for example, for the reading vlog that I'm going to post, were really interesting, unexpected reads, and I just had a lot of fun reading this month. I had a bit of a difficult month, like I mentioned at the start of the video, so reading has really offered me a very good escape from all of the bacteria in my house. But slowly but surely, we're getting out of this rhythm of being at home, locked up with a lot of sickness. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that the spring will bring a lot of health into our household so I can feel more like myself and I can make more content for you guys, because I do have a lot of things planned. It's just that I keep on moving things forward until I feel like I can just sit down and do the things that I've planned to do. So thank you so much for being patient with me. Thank you so much for supporting me. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to follow my content and you haven't subscribed yet. I hope to see you very soon in the next one. Have a wonderful, marvelous day. Happy reading. Take care. Bye-bye.